What's up, government class? It is Friday, March 5th, 2021, and we are mere hours, maybe even minutes away from spring break. I'm ready. I got the shades on, the hat rolling. We laid back on Friday. Spring break, here we come. But first, we got a little bit of schoolwork. We got a last class review. Last class, we went over how a bill becomes a law. We talked about the process it goes through the House of Representatives. Today, we're going to move on, see the process as it goes through the Senate. That's going to be our part 2 of today's schedule. And then we really got to get down to business. We have our major test, which is just going to be our weekly review quiz. 10 questions. I'm actually going to put them up on the screen so there's no issues, no questions that you guys have. Just to answer those questions and send them to me. Then we'll do the attendance and assignment and get on out of here into spring break. Woohoo! So, without further ado, let's go ahead. You need to get your How a Bill Becomes a Law notes, the graphic organizer. It's titled The Legislative Process. I emailed it to you last class. Pull that puppy up, and let's get to work on that now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so here's where we left off last class with the legislative process. We talked about it going through the House. How if it's introduced in the House, it goes to the hopper, it's given a number, then it goes to subcommittee, then committee, then to the Rules Committee, which you'll notice isn't over here on the Senate side. And they set rules for how long you can talk and how many amendments you can add. Then it goes to the full House. And if the full House votes yes, it does not go to the Conference Committee just yet. At that point, once the full House votes yes on it, it goes all the way back up to the Senate. So let's start here for today. The Senate. We'll go ahead, give you some bullet points as well. The Senate starts with the presiding officer. Obviously, presiding kind of means president, but the presiding officer is usually the vice president because they are the leader of the Senate, or the Senate pro, and I'm going to put temp, but we know that that means pro tempore if the vice president isn't there. The presiding officer, usually one of those two, introduce the bill. Now, just like in the House, it is given a number. In fact, we'll say bill is given a number. For example, we'll say like Senate Bill, we'll go 136, SB 136. And again, the number, just like in the House, represents what number the bill is in the current session. So the very first bill is going to be SB 1. The second one is going to be SB 2. Now, for these two processes, I'm going to save you a whole bunch of time. Once it goes to subcommittee, the process is exactly the same as over here in the House. We'll just put same, and you can write a little arrow right down here. I don't have an arrow, but you can write an arrow pointing over to the House side because everything happens in the same way in the subcommittee. It's a smaller version, and they report to this committee, and they conduct hearings here, which we learned about last class. They ask questions, and then they report back to the committee. This is the first place a bill can die. If it doesn't die and they report back to the committee, this committee, again, we're going to save a little time here. We'll go bloop, bloop, get some bullet points and put same, and put an arrow right over here. They usually follow the advice of the subcommittee. Most bills die here as well, and the committee usually follows what they say, and they vote on whether or not the full Senate should hear the bill. You might want to say that. We can say committee votes on whether or not the full Senate should hear the bill. Obviously, if they vote no, it dies. But if they vote yes, it goes right here to the full Senate. It absolutely skips over the Rules Committee, and you'll see why that's important. And while we're at it, since we're talking about the full Senate, just like last time, let's take a quick look at the full Senate. Here you go. Much smaller room than you see for the House of Representatives. And that makes sense because there are 100 senators and 435 members in the House. That's more than 4 times as much, so you need more space in the House. This is the Senate room where they all work. They all have their own desk. They can get up here and give speeches, and that's the Senate room, both of which are in the Capitol building, that big, big building that's at the beginning of this video, the intro. That's the Capitol. Both of these, the Senate and the House, are both in there. So they both work in that building, just 2 different sides. Now, back to the bill, getting all the way to the full Senate. Man, it's made it very far. It's gone through both houses, or it's gone through the House of Representatives, and now it's in the full Senate. So, just like in the House, we got to start with all senators that are present. That's a big one. And let me move this out of the way again for you guys. All senators that are present, again, discuss and debate the bill, just like in the full House. However, there's no rules to follow here. And in fact, there is a ridiculous situation that can happen. We're going to go ahead, we're going to bold this and underline it and say, the filibuster, that's a fun word to say, can happen here. We'll even put an exclamation point on it. What is a filibuster, you might ask? Good question. A filibuster is when a senator doesn't want a vote on a specific bill. Maybe that senator thinks, hey, this bill's a good bill and I don't want it to pass. I want it to die. So what I'm going to do is filibuster. And this is a vocab word. Filibustering is getting up and standing in front of the entire Senate and talking for hours and hours and hours. What do they talk about? You might be thinking, well, they're certainly talking about the bill and why it's bad. Nope. They can talk about whatever they want. A filibuster is basically a stall tactic to try to prevent a vote by just talking about anything you want. Right here, we're going to see an example of old Bernie Sanders. And this is a shot from live TV, but you can see at the bottom, Senator Sanders began his filibuster at 10:25 a.m. He's been speaking for over 8 hours. He's just talking. And a lot of times, they'll just bring up a cookbook and start reading out recipes. Maybe they'll bring a novel up. Maybe they'll talk about their childhood memories and a vacation they took to France when they were 5. All they're trying to do is talk and talk and talk. It's insane. Normally, a filibuster works, or at least the threat of a filibuster works. If somebody says, I'm going to filibuster, people say, fine, we won't even bring this bill to a vote. However, there are some rules with a filibuster. First of all, you saw Bernie right up here. You can't have any food while you're talking. That's no food, can't be eating, can't take breaks. You have to talk continuously, so you can't sit down and have some food. You can't sit down at all. You have to stand the whole time, and you actually can't even lean on the desk. You just have to stay there and you have to talk. Now, the not eating food isn't a bad idea, or it's not a bad rule, because you also can't go to the bathroom. You can't just stop and take a break to go to the bathroom. You have to continuously talk. However, there are some rules where you can give up the floor to let somebody else talk for you, and that person might be in on it, and they might just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to keep helping you with this filibuster. I'm going to talk for an hour so you can go get some rest. It is a ridiculous old rule that somehow made it into the Senate, where if you don't want a bill to pass, you can just sit up there and talk for hours. However, if that doesn't happen, if a quorum is present, just like in the House, if a quorum is present, now remember we said a quorum is like basically one more than half. So we know the Senate's 100 members, half is 50. We'll say if a quorum is present, That's 51 members in the Senate. My little mathletes, I'm sure you knew that. Then the Senate votes. Again, if more people vote no, then yes, the bill can die. Let's go ahead. Let's widen this box a little bit. Let's get our red ink. And oh, no, we don't want to do it all red. We just want this part to be red. Bold it up and say, Bill can die. Poor Bill. Poor, poor Bill. However, if they vote yes, that's great news. They have both voted yes on a bill. However, it doesn't go to the president's desk just yet. It goes to this area called a conference committee. And what a conference committee is a committee that kind of irons out the differences. Right here, when it went through the House, they sent it over to the Senate. Maybe the senators added some amendments in committee or in subcommittee, or maybe some full senators, or not full senators, maybe some senators here wanted something attached on, so they added an amendment. If they add an amendment, you can't vote yes on this bill and think it's the same bill. It's a completely different bill. So what they do is they take members from both houses and they put them in this thing called a conference committee. Let's get some bullet points here. And we'll say in a conference committee, members from both houses meet to work out differences, or we'll say work out any differences in bills that were passed. And I know that's hard to see, so let's just move it down a little bit. There we go. Members from both houses meet to work out any differences. So again, we know that a bill can start in the Senate, go through to the House, and maybe the House adds some amendments. It's not the same bill. Even if they both vote yes, maybe there's 15 new amendments here and none on the Senate side. So they have to get some members. They have a conference committee. They meet up and they work out differences in the bill. And they say, hey, we need to have an exact bill that we can both vote on. So if and only if the differences are worked out, what they do then, and that means they will send one version, which is identical. It has to be the exact same. One version is sent to the House, and one is sent to the Senate. And it's exactly the same bill. It reads the same. It's the same words. It's no different amendments, nothing added on. It sends it back up to the full Senate and back up to the full House. If they can't work out the differences, guess what happens? The bill dies. So we'll say, if not, comma, bill dies. But if they do iron out the differences, it goes back to the Senate. If they have a quorum, they vote on it again. They can vote yes or they can vote no. So the bill could die again back here, even though they ironed out the differences. And once they send it back to the full Senate and to the full House, they could still vote no. Maybe they don't like the new amendments or the new rules that were ironed out. So it could die here again. Man, bills can die anywhere. However, if it's good news, and I guess, look, we have an arrow right here. I should say, let's put some information in here. Boom, delete, bullet points. We'll say they vote on identical, and that's key, bill. And then the same thing's going to happen over in the Senate. So we'll just copy this, paste this right here. They vote on the identical bill once it gets through conference committee. However, like I said, they could both die here. It could die here in the full Senate, or it could die here in the full House. But if it doesn't, if passed in both houses, the exact same bill, it goes to the desk of the President of the United States of America. It is still not a law yet, though. It's still only considered a bill. And the President has three things he can do. Three completely different things. The first thing, which is the most obvious, is the president can sign the bill. If the president signs it, puts the signature of the president on there, man, we're going to put this in all caps. It becomes a law. Woohoo! It made it through a heck of a process. The president signed it, now it became a law. The next thing the president can do, obviously, is not sign it, but the president can veto the bill. That basically means he kills it himself. If you veto a bill, you say, nope, I don't like this. I'm putting a stamp on it that says veto, and the bill dies. Aww. There is one exception to this, and this goes back to when we talked about checks and balances. First of all, the president having to sign a bill that's passed by the House is a check and balance because the president's part of the executive branch. This is the legislative branch in the legislative process. However, if he doesn't like the bill, he can veto it, and it dies. But if you've got a jerk president and you've got a really good Congress and these guys are trying to vote on bills and pass good laws, and this president keeps vetoing bills, there is something that the House and the Senate can do. They can override a presidential veto. So let's add, if it dies, but it can be overridden. And what that takes is a 2/3 vote of Congress by both houses. So it can be overridden by a 2/3 vote in both houses of Congress. That means this bill that just got vetoed goes back to the full Senate and back to the full House. In the Senate, it only needed one more vote for a yay than it did for a nay. If it was 51 to 49 yay, it passed. However, for a 2/3 vote, just like when we were talking about creating amendments to the Constitution, you need 2/3 of these people to vote yes. That's 67. Same thing up here. 2/3 of this 435 members. I forget what that number is, but it's a lot. But that is the case if you want to override a presidential veto. It's a lot of people from the House, a lot of people from the Senate, and if they all vote yes, then the bill becomes a law. So we'll say, but can be overridden by a 2/3 vote in both houses of Congress. If so, then the bill becomes a law, even without the president's signature. Now the final thing that the president can do is what all of my students love to do. He can do nothing, or she can, depending on who's the president. If the president does nothing, the bill becomes a law after 10 days. Let's just say the president doesn't want to sign it because the president wants to seem like they are against this bill, but they think it's a good idea. So they don't sign it at all. And after 10 days, if the president hasn't done anything, it becomes a law. So let's get some exclamation points there. Now there is one little thing I want to talk to you about, and that's called a pocket veto. A pocket veto can only happen in this situation where the president does nothing. Let's say we talked about sessions of Congress last time. And let's say that they've decided to adjourn. Remember, they get to decide when they want to leave. The House and the Senate vote to adjourn on December 10th. And this bill gets to the president's desk on December 5th. Well, there aren't 10 days left in the legislative session. They've already decided that the session is over in 5 days. So there's not 10 days for this do-nothing action to happen. Meaning, if the president does nothing and there are less than 10 days in session, the bill dies. Now that's only if that happens at the very end of the year, at the end of the session, and it's called a pocket veto. But that's if there's less than 10 days. So we'll say if less than 10. Whoop! Don't know what happened there. Let's get back here. Remind me later. There we go. Bill dies if less than 10 days. And that's what you can put in there. And that does it. That's the way a bill becomes a law. It is a long process. It takes a long time. They say there are two things in life you never want to see get made: sausage and a bill becoming a law. Oh my gosh. These are your notes. That's all you got for today. We are done with the notes. Let's go ahead and move on in to the weekly review quiz / major test. All right, here we go. We've made it. Weekly review quiz / major test time. We got 10 questions, and since it's the day before spring break, we're throwing you 3 bonus questions, as per usual. Question number 1, how often do we have congressional elections? Question number 2, how many members of the House of Representatives are up for re-election every congressional election? That means each time there's a congressional election, how many members of the House are up for re-election? Number 3, about how many members of the Senate are up for re-election every congressional election? About how many? The number may change. Hopefully that's a good hint for you. Number 4, when do members of Congress start their term? I want the day and the time. Now, I'm not saying day like Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. The month, the day, and the time. That should be another hint for you as well. Number 5 is an easy one. How much money does a member of Congress make per year? Whew! Number 6 is a bit tougher. What is the franking privilege? What is the franking privilege? Number 7, easy. What do you call the leader of the House of Representatives? And look at that. That H isn't capitalized. Boom. The House of Representatives. Number 8, who is the leader of the Senate? So for number 8, I want the name of the person who's the leader of the Senate and their title. The leader of the Senate is a specific position that has a specific title. I want the title and I want that person's name. Going back to number 7, I just want the title. What do you call the leader of the House of Representatives? They have a specific title. What is that? Shooting down to number 9. We're talking about the Senate here. If this person is not there, if the leader of the Senate is not there, what is the title of the person who becomes in charge of the Senate? At least temporarily. Temporarily. Should be a little hint as well. Keyword, temporarily. Number 10 is, what do you call the party in either house, House of Reps or Senate, that has more members? There's a specific term. It's 2 words. And then your first bonus question, number 11, what do you call the party in either house, the House or the Senate, that has less members? Number 12, which is bonus question number 2, how many members are in the House of Representatives? How many members are in the House of Representatives? And number 13 is similar to number 7. Number 7 asks for what's the title of the leader of the House of Representatives. Number 13 is, what is the name of that person? The leader of the House of Reps. I'll give you a hint. What is her name? I'll give you another hint for number 8 too. Who is the leader of the Senate? What is her name as well? That is it. Weekly review quiz. Review. Easy for me to say. Weekly review quiz done. Major test done. Let's see what we got. All right, there you have it. It is almost time for spring break. You got one more class left. For this class of American government, all you got to do, 2 things for today's assignment. 1, obviously, send me the answers to the major test, which was the weekly review quiz we just took. And send me a picture of your completed notes. And that's it. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful spring break. We will see you, I believe, on Tuesday, the 16th. Enjoy your time off, relax. You've earned it. It is much deserved. You guys have a great spring break. We'll see you then.